Hi, I'm Justin. I'm part of the Youth 2020 Can Nanaimo team. It is a youth project that brings youth together between the ages of 15 and 29 to help shape the community through volunteering. We brainstorm about local issues and projects that can make a difference and create projects that will help our community. We are part of a bigger group. There are Youth 2020 Can members in Victoria, Cowichan, Nanaimo, Courtenay, Campbell River, and Powell River. We wanted to honor Remembrance Day, so we decided to make this video. We interviewed veterans to learn about what they experienced during the war.
In 1939, it was a Friday morning and it was September the 1st and I was still on holiday from school and I was 15 at the time and on the radio at 8 o'clock, we used to have the BBC news at 8 o'clock in the morning. My mum and I were listening to it and we heard that Hitler had invaded Poland and that it looked as though war was going to be declared. Chamberlain made an appeal to Germany for them to stop the war, get out of Poland and make peace. Of course, Hitler took no notice at all. And the war continued, and on September the 3rd, which was a Sunday, beautiful Sunday, at 10 o'clock in the morning, on the radio, everybody in England was listening to the radio. Wow. That morning.
So you can remember that day?
Oh yeah. I remember all of these things so clearly, you know. He declared war. I've never heard a man with so much sorrow in his soul. You could feel it coming out, you know. The poor man had tried all he could to keep the peace, and he'd failed, and he knew in his heart that it was going to be a long, hard struggle, whoever won, and it didn't look as though we could win at that time. Hitler was very, very powerful. You've got to understand that. He'd got tremendous forces and he'd mechanized his army. No other army in the world had gone as far as Hitler had, and that enabled him to put the blitzkrieg, the lightning war, into operation. And you'd get onto a bus and it'd be dead silent, you know, and all that. Or on a train, you know, long distances, and you'd sit there in the coach and gaze at the other people, and you wouldn't talk to them. But during the war, it all changed.
So it really changed people.
It really changed people, and people. We were all British together, you know, and it was fantastic how it happened. I'd like to see it happening now with this pandemic, because there's quite a lot of people who are not disciplined to the necessities that we all have at the present time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We were always brought up to believe in doing good things and that sort of thing with people, and we were always brought up in the school particularly to be patriotic. We were British and we had that upon our backs for the whole lifetime. You're British, act as a British person would, and you were faithful to the king and all that sort of thing.
Now,
I'm a little bit different.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I hadn't got a care in the world, and and I was looking forward, you know, to getting into action and all that sort of thing. Of course, when you get into action, you've got different feelings, you know. And that's my wife, and she was 18 as well, and she was a volunteer in the air raid precautions. She was a warden.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we were both in uniform.
So how long did you serve for?
I was in the Navy for over 4 years.
4 years.
1942 to 1946.
Yeah. Wow.
I was 18, just under 18 actually, when I went in, and I was coming up to 22 in a month when I was demobilised in 1946. Just digressing a little here. Quite a few people left school at 16. There were 27 pupils in my class, and we were all near to 18 or 18. We'd all taken the school certificate, which was the big exam. And my mom put on a kind of a banquet, a going away meal. How she managed to get supplies, I don't know. It's best that we didn't inquire of her, you know. She was marvellous doing that. At any rate, she put on this banquet, and everyone in the form, they all came. There were 27 of us. And at the end of the war, she put on another banquet.
Wow.
And there were 13 of us.
Oh my goodness.
And the majority of those people that weren't there, they were dead, of course. The majority of them were bomber pilots in the RAF.
Wow.
The bomber offensive against Germany took the best that there were in Britain at that time, in young men. Those young men, we missed them at the end of the war. We could have done with them. They would have been the leaders to, not just from our school, but from lots of grammar schools. They were the leaders. They were wiped out. They just weren't there anymore.
I do have one more question for you. If you had one word of wisdom to give to people, what would you say?
Words of wisdom?
Yeah. Or words of advice.
About the war or just life
It
generally?
can be about the war or life in general.
Life in general, I think, I'd say, don't expect life to carry on as you want it, as you think it's going to be, because it isn't. It's going to change, and it changes all the time.
Thank you for sharing everything today. It was lovely to talk to you, and thank you for your service as well.
Well, that's very nice of you. Yeah.
Yes, I joined in 1944, and we'd been around for a long time, but it took me that long to grow up, to be able to get an age so I could join.
Okay. What was it like being a woman in the service?
It was great, because we were all women in our
Okay.
service. The ATS was the Auxiliary Territorial Service, which was all women at that time. And it then became the Women's Royal Army Corps when the Queen joined. And she became head of the stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was it like to serve?
Pardon me?
What was it like to serve?
Oh, very regulated, and yet comforting in that you knew exactly what you were doing, you knew where you were supposed to be, and what was expected of you. There were very seldom times when they hit us with something we didn't know what was coming, you know. But they, and there were, there were hundreds of us. Depending on what part of England you were in, like I joined and I went to Newcastle, and there were hundreds of us up there. And then when I was finally moved down to an office job near Manchester, below in North Wales, that there was hundreds of us there. Yeah, and then to go south, where to the coast, was wonderful because the planes were going and well after they got through the Germans bombing, and then but they came and we had it was a good life. It was a good life.
Whenever you're ready.
Oh, yeah. Well, the service, when you went in, it was like a bunch of friends getting together, and you were going to have fun, you know. And then you came up against your head people, and you realized that maybe it wasn't always going to be as much fun as you thought it was. However, you did soon learn that if you conformed and didn't cause problems, your life would be quite easy, or easier than you thought it would be. The people who enlisted when I was in were friendly, and some of them weren't afraid to say how afraid they were. That, oh, I'm a bit nervous about this, what do I do about that? And can they really tell me off like she did? And you learn that, yes, you can get told off like she did. But the general feeling is one of togetherness. And I remember a journey when we had gone down south from Newcastle on Tyne in northern England, gone down south, and we were at a different place, a different, what am I trying to say? A different get-together. And the Germans were closer then, and their planes were more visible. And so you had to sort of be careful. And I think this made a lot of us more, to heck with you, Mac, go on back where you belong, and don't come over here making problems. And which was a bit unrealistic, but that's the way it was. And our officers, all the women who were, had various lifestyles before they joined. So it was interesting to see their, what had shaped them into the people that they were. And I found them to be very, very reasonable until you got really out of line, and then you'd really get it. But as long as you were in line and with them, they were reasonable, and you could tell that they'd had a long history. Perhaps, you know, you were what? You were 17, 18, okay, but they'd been in 2 or 3 years before that, and they were older women with often interesting lifestyles behind them. So when you got to know them, which we were lucky that we did, because they weren't too standoffish, you realize that what a life this was for them, and how everything had changed for them. We went north, we went west, we went south, and everywhere we went, I must say, from my own experience, interesting, and mostly kind people. Not as open as they perhaps would have been, but because of where we were in an army, so you didn't. But it was a wonderful experience.
So is there any words of wisdom you would like to share?
Words of wisdom. Just enjoy it.
Enjoy it.
Take part. Join in. Don't get too upset or in too much of a knot about law, rules and regulations. You know what they're going to be before you get there, so you might as well just ignore it and get on with it.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all the questions I have here.
Oh,
Thank you so much again.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Where and how did you serve?
I joined the military in 1966, wherever I served, all across Canada. I've been to Germany twice. My last tour was in the former Yugoslavia when the war was going on. I started my tour in Charlotte, Manitoba, and I ended my tour in Victoria, BC. And that's why I'm here now. Okay.
What was it like to serve?
Like my predecessor says, at first it's demanding, but after a while you get to know your mates that you're with, and it started being fun. My whole career, I've enjoyed my career in the military. The only, again, unlike Georgina, I did serve in a zone, I guess you want to call it, but it was mainly a peacekeeping law enforcement zone in Yugoslavia. So that was the only posting I've had where I had to put to use what I learned in the military. I would start, one of my friends, and this was just again a training exercise where we had a grenade problem, and he ended up losing both his hands. But he's one of the strongest guys at home. He's a role figure to me, how he managed to bring his life around to compensate for his loss. And that was in Wainwright, Alberta. The only other action, or I should say action, the only other place where we had problems where we were being shot at basically was in Yugoslavia. Like the wife said, we had mine sweeping machinery that was operated by the Croatians. And basically what it was a big drum with chains attached to it, and he would start it up and he would go in a minefield with this thing going around and exploding. So we met him at 8 o'clock in the morning, and he went, I'll use the word sober. By the end of the day, after all these explosions happened, he used to have a bottle with him, and when he came back, he was well, he was okay, but he probably wouldn't go back out there for a while. Another incident, I was involved with a field clearing exercise with the engineers. And this is your age kids. The boy must have been about 17 or 18 years old. He was driving a tractor in a field, and he hit one of these landmines. The operation what we went to was basically gathering parts, some sort of, so I could say it. And back to the kids thing, I sometimes don't think that our kids know how lucky they are to be here in Canada. Those kids over there, some of them would beg you for food and everything, because there was nothing really going on at the time that helped the people or the children that were involved in this thing. But, again, there was bad times and there was good times. Comradeship in Bosnia was, you depended on your friend, buddy, and everybody looked after each other. I had one thing that bothered me. I was in charge of a platoon of about 90 to 100 people, and I had to make decisions on who to send out to do stuff. Sometimes I would pick people, and you're all single, so I would pick single people because, again, they have no family. So, but it got to the point where I couldn't do that anymore. Just it's not fair to the same people to go out, risk whatever for everyone else. So I talked to my platoon and said, we're going to start spreading it out. But that was the hardest thing, and I talked to my padre on that, and he said, well, you're human, you just think that's best, but sometimes it isn't best. But overall, in my experiences in Bosnia, even though we were being fired at, with the people I worked with, it's not the job that you remember, it's the people that you meet throughout your career. Like I said, they're there to assist you, they're there to have your back, and life goes on, basically. The whole platoon over there, for me, it was a great experience, and for them, some of them were 19 years old, but they enjoyed themselves.
Do you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us?
For the young people nowadays, some people just don't look at the military as a career. When I joined up, I would do my basic training and I joined up to get a trade. So when I started working fully, I would have something to go on. I got the trade from the military, and like I said before, I enjoyed myself, so I decided to stay in and make the military my career. So words of wisdom for the young kids nowadays. Kids somehow don't like being disciplined and stuff. I think sometimes everybody needs a bit of discipline. If we can learn to respect each other and work together, it'd be no problem. And I'm sure that once they're in there, they'll find that they'll enjoy themselves.
Thank you very much.
Okay, not a problem.
We understand the sacrifices that were made for us to have freedom, so we ask some of our youth what freedom means to them.
Freedom is having the choice to make your own decisions without repercussions. It is also expressing your own opinion. Freedom is also about safety, as there is little to no violence in Canada. We can go about our day peacefully without living in fear. Lastly, I am very grateful to vote, because in some countries this is not possible. Thank you to all the people that made this possible, because freedom is not there without you.
Freedom to me is having basic rights. It means choice.
This can be with our government and our belief system. Freedom is peace and safety. Freedom to me is also sacrifice. This includes our soldiers and people that fought for us in the wars, and their strengths and heroic actions that gave us our freedom that we have today.
Freedom is having a voice. It is the gift of being able to act and exist without constraint. It means to be free.
Thank you to all the veterans who fought for our freedom. We are truly thankful and appreciate everything you did. Canada is free because of you. Thank you to the veterans who shared their stories and to everyone who contributed to this video. From all of us at Youth 2020 CAN in Nanaimo, we wish you a happy Remembrance Day.